Hi everyone, it's James here. Welcome to another video. So this is going to be another instalment of my now long-running series, Incomplete Collections. This is where I celebrate the gaps in my collection by showing the records that I have by an artist where I don't have the complete discography. So this instalment is going to be focusing on Van Morrison, and this is one of the best sounding records in my collection. This is the best of Van Morrison, which I picked up a while ago, and it sounds tremendous. It really does sound fantastic. Whoever mastered it or sorted it out at the mastering stage did a fine job. It sounds absolutely brilliant, and this really has got everything on it that you'd need, really. You know, Bright Side of the Road, Gloria, Moondance, etc, etc. Fantastic, fantastic sounding album. And you know, Van Morrison is one of those Marmite artists, I think, to an extent. It's interesting because I used to be a person who didn't really like Van Morrison, and you know, years ago, if you'd have asked me about Van Morrison, I'd have just said no thank you. I remember going to the library, this is going back probably about at least 10 years now, and getting Astral weeks from the library and taking it home and listening to it. I can still see myself sat on the sofa listening to it and just thinking, this is not really for me. I think I found it a bit pretentious, and his voice just didn't appeal to me at all. But a few things happened. I hadn't played the drums for many years. I mean, we're talking about 10 years. And then I got an offer to go and play with somebody here in Lancaster. There was a singer-songwriter who's on the circuit here, and he asked me if I would go down and play the drums for him. He was playing keyboard, so I said yes. And he asked me to, well, he said that we were going to be playing the song Moondance, so I listened to it in preparation for the gig, and I really liked it. Played that gig and it was fantastic. It was one of the best nights of my life, you know, to get back into playing again after so long. I just loved it. So something fell into place that night with me and Van Morrison. And then a couple of weeks later I was playing another gig, because it had sort of, you know, relaunched me on the local scene, and I heard Into the Mystic playing in this bar. And we'd finished the gig and we were clearing up, and the song came on, and I just listened to it and I thought, wow, what a fantastic song, what a beautiful sound, incredible voice. And from that moment on, you know, I was hooked. Went out and bought this record, and then it was the usual slippery slope after that. The next one I think I picked up from the house of a guy who was having a bit of a record clear out is this record, fantastic album from 1973. It's Too Late to Stop Now. I mean, really, if you were to get that, and then you were to get this as well, it's kind of, in a way, it's all the Van Morrison you need, you know, unless you want to head down the slippery slope. So this is a fantastic album. It's a classic blue-eyed soul record with lots of brilliant horns on it, fantastic arrangements. His band are just on fire all the way through. Absolutely tremendous. So just one of the greatest live albums of all time, I'd say. And there we go. So what's left now in this little pile here is my collection of his studio albums. Now, to say that there are gaps in this collection would be the understatement of the century. Van has got a truly vast back catalogue, and I have hardly any of it. Most of the records I've got come from the classic 70s period. They start in 68. The final record I've got to show comes from 1989. I have nothing after 1989. So we'll go through, I won't take too long over it. Everybody knows these records. Well, if you're into Van Morrison, you do anyway. So don't need to spend too long talking about them. So we'll start with 1968, and this is my copy of Astral Weeks. Picked up from the shop Alan Hughes Film Nostalgia and Music in Wrexham about 2 or 3 years ago. And I have warmed to this album over the years. It's still not my favourite. You know, there are real sort of hard Van Morrison hardcore fans who say this is his masterpiece. I do enjoy it, but it's not a record that tops my list, really. You know, that kind of chamber, jazz, pop, soul sound. I have to be in the mood for it, I think. It's very free form. It's a great album to lose yourself in if you're in the mood for it, to just you know, get into that mystical, trance-like headspace. I mean, it's an incredible album in a way, but it's not my first port of call. Maybe I just, you know, need to do some more work on it. Anyway, 1968, Van turned a lot of heads with that record. It was certainly nothing like anything that had come out before. And I remember back in the day, back in the 90s, it used to top lists of, you know, the greatest albums of all time in magazines and so on. I think it's still got that reputation as being one of the all-time greats. So anyway, that's That's Astral Weeks from 1968. I should just say his first solo album, Blowing Your Mind, from '67. That's the first gap in my collection. I don't have that one. I've never actually seen it in the wild. So the next one from 1970 that I have is Moondance, and this is one of my favourites. And I still think of this record as being Van Morrison 101 in a way. If you want to get into Van Morrison, or if you want to check out to see whether you like Van Morrison, whether he's going to be somebody that's for you, I think this is a good record to start with, because it's very accessible, it's very tuneful, it's very joyous. His band are fantastic on it, and it kind of sets out his stall really. Van is an interesting artist. I sort of bracket him in my mind with Ray Charles in a way, because he flits between all these different genres. You can be listening to a Van Morrison song and you can be asking yourself, am I listening to a blues song here, or is it a jazz song, is it a soul number, or is it just a pop song? And more often than not, it's all of those things. He has a unique way of rolling everything up into one. Crazy Love, Caravan, Into the Mystic, These Dreams of You. It's very easy music to listen to. I guess that's one of the reasons why some people don't like Van Morrison. I think he can appear to some people as being a bit soporific, a little bit banal maybe. But there's some quality to his voice. He has a unique way, I think, of inhabiting his songs. When he sings certain lines, when I hear them, it's almost like I'm seeing straight into his soul or into his being. And it could be a fairly inconsequential line of a song. He can be describing himself just driving down a street in his car or something, and as he's singing it, I feel like I'm there with him. There's a deep sense of reality in his music somehow. And like I said, just that combination of all those different kind of musical elements, I just find it very, very relaxing actually, and just really nice to listen to. Anyway, so that was Moondance from 1970. Then I've got another gap in 1970, his band and the Street Choir. So the next one from 71 is Tupelo Honey, and here is my copy of that. And there we go on the back. And again, this record is very peaceful, very tuneful, very nice to listen to. I wouldn't say it is a favourite of mine. There are some good, absolutely gorgeous tracks on it. My favourite song from this album would be Old Woodstock, which has got all these vibes in it. He was kind of so influenced by that kind of chamber jazz sound, and there's some really beautiful tracks on this record. A couple that I find a little bit throwaway, things like Starting a New Life is kind of alright. It's a kind of upbeat, jaunty song. It's probably not top 3 for me, but it's good. Now, wrong with it, as they say in Yorkshire. Okay, so from 1972, I think this is probably my favourite of his albums. This is St Dominic's Preview, and this copy, I think I got this from Lancaster, from the market a few years ago. This is the one that has Jackie Wilson's Said on it, and it's a very upbeat, very joyous song. Gypsy, I Will Be There, Listen to the Lion, which is one of his first great kind of extended slow pieces, very kind of introspective, ethereal, it draws you in. You have to be very patient listening to it. Often with these Van Morrison albums, they're not records that kind of happen in a flash. You have to kind of go with it and accept that Van is going to be exploring at length sometimes. And it's weird because he can be just, going back in between two chords, just literally just vamping on 2 chords, and it's quite a gutsy thing to do in a way, to have a song which does not really have a particularly advanced chord progression. He's just, he's going from A to E, but just the arrangements that he superimposes over that, the strings and the voices, and just the way he's able to bring things almost to a complete standstill. Just huge gaps of silence and introspection, but and things moving at a glacially slow speed, So that was 1972. Then in 1973, there is an album called Hardnose the Highway. Now this one I picked this up from a charity shop for about 50p, even less than that actually, because it comes with no jacket. I know this album has not got a fantastic reputation, but I actually really like it. I do need to find one with a cover, but again, it's one of his ones which has got a kind of peaceful, autumnal kind of sound. The song Autumn Song is on there, Purple Heather. It's got his version of Being Green, which is very charming, really, So anyway, Hardnose the Highway, need to get a cover for that. That was 1973. And then we've got what some people say is his masterpiece. We've got Vedan Fleece, which comes, I think, from 1974. This copy was given to me. This was VCLT from Jeff Party here on the vinyl community. He had a spare copy, so he sent it me a couple of years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago. I know Jeff loves this record. It's one of his favourite albums of all time. I really do like it, actually. It's got a very, again, a very peaceful sound. You've got songs like The Streets of Arklow. I've been to Arklow. Many years ago, I went to Ireland for a holiday, a family holiday, and I stayed in Arklow, would you believe? It's quite a nowhere place, really. It's quite near Dublin. Nice place. It's a kind of harbour town. Not much there, but lovely air quality in that part of the world. So, yeah, I mean, Van Morrison, sometimes his music, it slips down in that way that, you know, like fresh spring water or just really nice, pure, fresh air. That's one thing that I seem to remember, you know, going to Ireland, the air quality was beautiful. It was a kind of air that you drink into your lungs and fill your lungs with. And there is a quality of that in Van Morrison's music. There's a kind of purity that runs through it. I've no idea if that's anything to do with him being from Ireland or not. It might be a total coincidence. To cut a long story short, Vedan Fleece, it's a beautiful album and it's got some truly sublime moments on it. I don't think I'm as keen on it as Jeff is. I would still probably listen to Moondance first, but yeah. One of those legendary albums, really, well overdue for a reissue on vinyl, even on CD. I don't even have this album on CD, you know, you can't find it. Some of these records are really hard to come by, but that one seems to be the worst one to find, really, so I was very grateful to Jeff for that one. And then he followed it up in 1977, so there was a gap there, not quite sure what happened there. I should just say, actually, I know hardly anything about Van Morrison, and one of the reasons why I didn't get into him for so long is that I know he's got this reputation as being not a very nice person. I would quite like to read a biography of him because I've got no illusions about him. He's just, you know, he's one of those artists who has treated people quite badly through the years, you know. And I think for that reason, I kind of held off for a long time before listening to him, and I still don't know anything about him. So I can't really tell you anything about these records or the making of them. But perhaps one day I will kind of, you know, read up on him. So 1977 is a period of transition. And this record does not have a particularly marvellous reputation. I think coming off the back of Vedan Fleece, which was seen as being a bit of a masterpiece, this one is seen as being a bit throwaway. I actually really like this album. One of the reasons I like it, it was his collaboration basically with Mac Rebennack, as in Dr. John. And the tracks are not particularly memorable. They're not like great songs, but it's just a great one to put on with a beer or a glass of wine. It's quite upbeat, it's quite funky, it's quite unpretentious. There's nothing highfalutin about it or anything kind of grand or overarching. It's just a fun, funky album with a bit of a kind of black New Orleans rhythm and blues kind of flavour to it. Not a fantastic album, but it's one that I am quite fond of. Okay, so then in 1979 we have this record, Into the Music. And this is actually a really, really nice album. It's got Bright Side of the Road on it, which is one of his most joyous songs, really. Van's music is full of joy, even though he's kind of seen, well, you know, he is this kind of cantankerous brute, really, you know. His music does have a very joyous quality to it. Angelou on side 2 is beautiful, and yeah, it's just a really, really nice album from 1979, and there's a bit of interesting instrumentation on this one, you know, a few tablas. You got Ry Cooder playing slide guitar on Full Force Gale. It's a good one. Nice record. Into the Music. Okay, then we've got another one bought for 25 pence from Oxfam. This is Common One. And this record, I think this record was slagged off by the critics at the time. It was seen, well, as you get into the 80s, Van starts to get into, I suppose, what would be described as New Age music. He's getting more and more peaceful, more and more blissed out. Some of the bluesy stuff is starting to disappear from his music. It's all getting a bit more kind of European, New Age, and I don't think the critics were very impressed with this one. Again, it's another glacially slow one. You have to go with him, you know. You know, tracks like Haunts of Ancient Peace, Summertime in England, they unfold very slowly and peacefully, but I think it's a beautiful record. This is one that I go go back to quite a lot actually. Again, it would be nice to find a cover for it. And then we get into his more new age kind of period now. Inarticulate Speech of the Heart from 1983 with a very 80s cover. Nice big group on this one. You've got all sorts of instruments and, you know, things going on, synthesizers, organs, and lots of backing vocals as well. You've got 5 people on backing vocals on this one. It's got a very synthy sound to it. One of the tracks I love, The Street Only Knew Your Name. It sounds like the Style Council. It's got like a Rhodes piano on it. It's quite funky, it's quite upbeat. There's a real mixture of stuff on this record. On side 1, the track Connie's Water is just amazing. It sort of goes back in two between, there's like two segments of the song. It's completely instrumental, but one of the segments just goes into this really, it's like an evocation of just deep, deep water, very mysterious, very enigmatic, very beautiful sounding. And, you know, I can see why this record and this period of Van does not get the critical kudos of the earlier work, but I think there's something there, you know. You could hear it as soporific, or you could hear it as trance-like, beautiful, mystical. I guess it, you know, depends what mood you're in. But this is a record that I am very fond of, so that's a good one. Inarticulate Speech of the Heart. And then we're going to come to the end of my collection now, would you believe? From 1989, we've got Avalon Sunset. And there is a duet on this record with Cliff Richard. It's the opening song on the album, easily my least favourite song on the record, Whenever God Shines His Light. I could do without that, really. The rest of the album, I think, is pretty good. It does have an 80s sound, you have to live with that. But there are some great songs. I love, on side 2, When Will I Ever Learn to Live in God? Fantastic song, absolutely brilliant. And then, but my favourite track, and one of the greatest Van songs, I think, is track 2 on side 2, Orange Field, which has a very majestic, symphonic kind of sound. And yeah, I don't know if it's got a particularly great reputation, but I think it's a fantastic album, in places anyway. Like I said, I could do without the Cliff at the beginning, but a really enjoyable album, and one that I'm always happy to go back to. There's the end for that one. And then, like I said, that brings us to the end of my collection, so you can see how far short I fall. 1989, I mean, God knows how many albums came after that. I mean, Van's discography is truly vast, and there are a couple of gaps that I know about earlier on, which I will probably fill at some point, but he's definitely not somebody whose complete discography I'm going to collect, because I just don't have the shelf space for it. But let me know if there are any records that you think from his later period that I should get, any kind of essential ones. Let me know, and I'll get them on CD, even if I can't get them on vinyl. Right, hope you enjoyed that. Van Morrison, Incomplete Collections. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.